I see the coffin arrive at Mum's late afternoon. I'm assuming the funeral's going to be sometime tomorrow. He opens the door and the undertakers carry the coffin inside. I wonder if he knows I'm watching. I don't want to give him the satisfaction of seeing me, tears streaming down my face. Tomorrow he'll bury my mum somewhere in the next town. Despite the fact that she hated the thought of being buried. But that's his choice. Legally, he has control of the funeral. The date, the time, the location. No doubt the little gold plaque on the coffin will bear the name Joyce Clark. His surname, not my dad's. His. How can I go and face him across Mum's grave knowing what he's done? Even if I had been told where and when my mum was being laid to rest. Tomorrow I'm meeting friends and we'll raise a glass in memory of her. My mum. My beautiful, intelligent, witty mum. Mum first met Ranlin Clark one morning a few years ago. She was working in the garden. Despite being 87, she was still active. She'd been diagnosed with dementia. The missing bits in my head, she called it, a few months previous. She got talking to Ranlin whilst weeding a flower bed. He was walking by and he remarked on how lovely her garden looked. "Come in and have some tea," she'd said. In hindsight, that was probably a symptom of her dementia. I mean, normally she would never have invited a total stranger inside the house. Before long, Ranlin was a frequent visitor at my mum's. One day she rings me up and says, "Come and meet the fella." She never really got to grips with his unusual first name. She always referred to him as the fella. I shouted up to David, "I'm just popping round to Mum's." When I get next door, Ranlin's sitting drinking tea. He shakes my hand, introduces himself. There appears to be quite a bit of his stuff in the house, a few suit jackets, shoes by the door. Seemed quite a bit younger than my mum. Later, I casually slip it into the conversation. "How old are you?" I ask. "Oh," he says, "70s. Mum smiles. I later find out he's actually only 62. David asked me about Ranlin that night. "Well, he's a bit eccentric," I say. "But Mum seems happy and he's handy about the house. He's even fixed that dripping tap." Mum's test results come back and it's not good news. Cancer. She's given a course of chemotherapy, which she copes with okay, considering she's in her late 80s. Probably helped that she was always fit, played a lot of sport, was captain of the university hockey team. Seems that Ranlin's moved in with Mum. No one mentions it, but I can see he sleeps there. And his old yellow car's permanently in the drive. When I talk to Mum about it, it's difficult to get her on her own because he's always there, but she just smiles at me and says, "Well, he's got no heating in his own house." One day my brother, who's visiting us from abroad, he takes a look at Ranlin's house. "Andrea," he says, "it's practically derelict." I look through the windows and there's next to no content. Decrepit cars in the garden. Then one day I go to my mum's to take her dementia appointment with the doctor. Ranlin's there, of course. He jumps up from the table and starts shouting at me. Joyce hasn't got dementia. He's yelling. And suddenly I feel a bit afraid. He insists on coming along to see the doctor with us. Totally monopolises the conversation. And the doctor looks embarrassed. He just keeps saying, I'm looking after you, aren't I, Joyce? And to be fair, he is. He washes her, he dresses her, he feeds her. And yet, when we get back to Mum's, Ranlin says Joyce is more than capable of dealing with her own post. What he's referring to is the fact that I have power of attorney over my mum. It's an arrangement that's been in place for years and my mum's perfectly happy with it. It means, amongst other things, that I receive her medical appointments through the post. Ranlin's not happy with this. I tried to change the subject. You've got some nice birthday cards, I say. They're all lined up on the mantelpiece. And then I noticed my card's missing. Where's my card, Mum? I ask. She looks blank. It's the missing bits, I think. Ranlin says nothing, just stares defiantly ahead. One day Mum is round at our house. It's rare these days that he's not there and she's a bit jittery. I'll have to get back to the house, she says. The fella will wonder where I've got to. So I walk her back home and Ranlin is waiting. By this point he barely speaks to me. And if he does, he won't look at me. There are 2 suitcases in the kitchen and passports on the table. Oh, I say, are you going somewhere, Mum? I try not to look shocked. He'd love that. We're going away for a few days, aren't we, Joyce? He says. A little break. Mum looks blank for a few seconds and then she says, oh yes, I remember now, I should have said. You could have come with us, Andrea. Ranlin refuses to tell me where they're going and Mum hasn't a clue. We'll be back in a few days, he says. A few days? What does that mean? This man is taking my mother away, God knows where, for a few days. She has a terminal illness and dementia. Anything could happen. But it seems that he can make my mother do whatever he wants. I ask him for a contact number. He says he has no mobile phone. So he gives me his email address and I know for a fact he won't check his emails. What is wrong with this man? I kiss my mum on the cheek. I'm shaky, but I'm trying not to let Mum see. I'll see you when you get back, Mum, I say. A few days later, David comes downstairs and he says we need to go to the police. I've been doing some research, he says, and what that man is doing to your mum, it's surely a form of domestic abuse. Then he mentions something called Clare's Law. We speak to a police officer the following day and tell him of our suspicions. I mean, this man has secretly sold his own house and has moved in with my mum, I say. We know very little about him and he won't talk about their relationship. Given that my mum has a terminal illness, it looks like he wants to inherit. The police officer stops writing. We'll pass on the information to the relevant agencies, he says, and they'll decide whether to investigate. But people will think you just don't like the man. It's April when the illness finally takes my mum. She'd recently celebrated her 92nd birthday. She goes to sleep and she doesn't wake up. I think I knew. Hours before she went to sleep, she was waving at me across the sitting room. My mum's friend was there with her daughter. And him, of course. Mum hadn't been able to speak that day, and I felt she was waving goodbye. I overhear him talking to Mum's friend, telling her that I don't care for Mum. She looked embarrassed. He's always saying these things. I actually think he believes I'm the devil incarnate. I ring the emergency doctor when I can't wake Mum. After certifying her dead, the doctor emerges from Mum's room and he's chatting with Ranlin. It's too much for me. I storm over and I say, "Can you talk to me? I'm a next of kin." It's 2 days later and the house phone rings. It's Dr. Collinson, the GP. He sounds a bit awkward. "This male friend of your mother's," he says. "He wasn't married to Joyce, was he?" "No." "Why?" I ask. "Well, he's just arrived in the surgery waving a marriage certificate and saying he's the next of kin and he's taking control of the funeral arrangements." So the day before Mum's funeral, I see the undertakers take the coffin inside his house. And yes, it is his house now. Legally, a marriage annuls any will. I never knew that before. Just like all the contents of the house are his now. The furniture, the little radio I lent Mum a few years ago when hers broke, my father's paintings. 7 months my life and my family's life has been on hold. 7 months my mother's body has been lying in a mortuary freezer. 7 months in limbo. The post-mortem, the results, the court case. But the judge is clear in his summing up. Ranlin Clark married for love. Despite the family being unaware of the marriage, he is her legal husband and therefore has control over the funeral arrangements. My mum didn't know she was married. I mean, she's such a family-orientated person. There's no way she would have married anyone without the family being there. You cannot legally marry someone who does not have capacity. And despite Ranlin's denials, Mum had dementia.